you get a solid month behind on every single bill, it is impossible to turn it around without some sort of windfall.
Yeah.
It just is. So I lived that way for a really long time. I didn't want to work outside the home to where my kids were in daycare.
To that point, like when you do that anyway, it doesn't really matter because you're going out to work, but the money that you earn just pays for daycare,
Yeah,
usually.
and that is very, very true.
Welcome to All Can, No Can't, the podcast where we toss out excuses, face our fears, and reclaim control. I'm Jeff Luther, your guide to mastering the chaos and turning obstacles into opportunities. Whether you're an entrepreneur navigating the ups and the downs of building a successful business or someone ready to rewrite the rules of your life, this is your space to grow, to push boundaries, and to embrace doing the hard shit that leads to greatness. Together, we'll explore stories of resilience, strategies for overcoming, and the mindset shifts that let you build a life on your terms. I use my experience with a life-altering diagnosis to help you find the can in every can't. So buckle up because it's time to stop living in can't and start thriving in all can. You choose.
Welcome back to All Can, No Can't. I'm your host, Jeff Luther, and this is the podcast about what happens when life, business, relationships, fear, failure, all the other, the stuff that we don't put on our vision board shows up anyway. This is a show about resilience, perspective, connection, taking responsibility for the parts of our lives that we can actually control. It's really about finding the opportunity and the obstacle. And today's conversation is about success. Like, I am super excited about this. It's probably not the Instagram version that you have in your head right now, um, because everybody loves to talk about the win. And while this guest definitely has some wins under her belt, it's the way that she got there. Very few people want to talk about the bad decisions, the failures, the wrong turns, the expensive lessons, and the moments of wondering, like, oh my God, what the hell am I doing? The things that happen before the win. So today we're talking about some of those and some super cool wins too. We're also going to talk about something that I think deserves a hell of a lot more celebration than we give it, and that's being free. So we'll get more into that. My guest today is Kira Hartley Klinger. She's an entrepreneur, an author, an internet reseller. She's an auction enthusiast and someone who's built a pretty remarkable career finding value in things that other people have discarded. Um, she adulted at 17, eventually found herself divorced, raising kids, no college education, no formal job training. And I have in my notes, she needed to figure out what came next. She had to. She had to figure out what came next. And that's what she did. She leaned into a side hustle. She built an e-commerce business. She became a top-rated seller with more than 60,000 collective sales, wrote multiple books, 4 books. We're going to talk about those. Started speaking and even attracted the attention of a television producer, which is totally cool. But Kira, thank you for being here. I'm going to tell you what caught my attention, buried in everything. Um, and I'm super excited about it, but we're going to get to it. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jeff. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you got it. Like when I read up about you, the thing that was buried in all of the stuff you've done, you're like, and now I'm 55 and I'm debt free. And I thought, that's the story. That's the story. Like all of these things that you did, all that you've gone through, and now you're free. And we look at success. Entrepreneurs love to show us their Lamborghini, right? So you look on Instagram, you see the Lamborghini or the guy standing in front of the private jet that you know full well he snuck onto a runway and got the photo for. But the
Right?
debt free, that's the flex. That's so cool.
Yeah. I hate Instagram and I love Instagram and it's just this back and forth relationship. The pretty perfectness that pops up on Instagram, it makes me want to gag. Is okay, stop it. Nobody's house is that clean all the time. Just stop it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean it's a choice. And it's a choice that when I was younger and drowning in debt, I was in debt since I was a teenager. I I was the money manager, and I can't really say that I sucked at it. I paid the bills. There just wasn't enough money to go around, you know. So
Yeah.
I was always robbing from Peter to pay Paul. I was always a month behind for the next bill and the next bill and the next bill. And when you accumulate credit card debt and you get behind, all of a sudden you also have these late charges. And so you
Yeah.
combine the late charge with the interest rate, and the minimum payment that they have you pay doesn't cover that last month's, it just doesn't. So it just keeps
Yeah.
rolling over and over and over. So
The
yeah, I
bill,
wasn't.
you're still paying it, and the bill gets higher every month.
Yeah, you're throwing your money away because you're sending them
Yeah.
$100, but your fees for the last month were 125. So it's this
Oh,
horrible, but it's really hard to get out of. I can't tell you how many times I'm like, oh, we're just going to refinance everything and have one payment and start all over again. But then when there's not enough money to keep making the payments, next thing you know, you're going into debt for it again. So
yeah.
it was vicious. But back then, I really think that when you're in a situation where you're drowning in debt, money is it's like, oh, money. What would I do if I had all this money? You know,
Yeah.
I can't even imagine that that's the goal. The goal is to have money. And the funny thing is my goal wasn't to be debt free. My goal was to have money, to buy things, to not have to worry about it. But when I became debt free, I was like, oh my gosh, it's money is such a tool. You know, you can either choose to create an image, I guess, and choose to be in debt to have that image, or you can choose what other priorities you might have later in life. Like we prioritize the 8 grandchildren. You know,
Right.
we prioritize spending time together. We prioritize being able to travel for a week and I can shut down my business and it's okay. You know, we
Yeah.
prioritize different things. So now that I realize that money's like a tool, I'm so stingy with it. Even still, I have hardly we have hardly any bills. But every time I think about buying something, it's like, no, I shouldn't. You really shouldn't buy that. Nah, don't buy that. You know. But yeah, I still buy everything on sale. It's a mindset, I guess.
Right. Yeah. What did money feel like? Like you mentioned in your bio that you were broke. Like what did broke actually look like?
Uh, we didn't. No, this isn't my first marriage. We were married for 23 years. Got married at 18. Not a clue in the world. You know, I
Yeah,
just recently have heard a lot of attention being put on the fact that adolescents don't really start to mature their mind until like 25 or 26. I had my
for
third
sure.
child at 26. So I didn't really know what I was doing. Back then, I mean, this was in the 80s. They didn't just hand credit cards out to young people like they do now. I mean, kids in college with no job can get a major credit card. It took me years to get a major credit card. I started with, I think my very first card was Sears. They gave me a line of credit, and I have held on to that credit card ever since then because that, 86 to 26, that 40-year history of having that credit card looks really good on my credit score. So anyway, I just have like one little charge that goes on it every month to keep it rotating, and then it automatically pays it. I think it's like $1, something stupid. It's
Yeah.
like storage on my phone or something. Anyway, um, we didn't get a house until 7 years in, and it was then that I realized how important credit is, your credit score, because they came back and they're like, "Oh yeah, you've got a lot of late payments." So what's a late payment? I paid my bills, you know, and I didn't understand how it worked. And so then when I found out that once you go 30 days past due, it's a strike on your credit, then it's like, oh, so as long as I pay it within that 30 days, my credit will be okay and I won't have to go through this again. Because I had to write letters for everything that was ever late, you know, and how do you
Yeah.
remember? Um, but then the problem with that is that there still wasn't enough money. And so I just made sure that every bill was constantly paid before it hit 30 days. And it got to the point where every single bill was getting paid like the day before the next one was going to roll out. I was cutting it off at that 30-day mark. And once you get a solid month behind on every single bill, it is impossible to turn it around without some sort of windfall. It
Yeah.
just is. So I lived that way for a really long time. Um, I didn't want to work outside the home to where my kids were in daycare. I wanted to raise my kids myself. So I
Right.
was fine. Yeah.
And when you're and I was sorry to interrupt you there, but
No, you're good.
to that point, like when you do that anyway, it doesn't really matter because you're going out to work, but the money that you earn just pays for daycare
Yeah.
usually.
And that is very, very true. Um, I took, I cleaned houses for 20 years because I could.
Yeah.
It started with friends who didn't care that I was bringing my kids with me if I had to.
Right.
Um, yeah, I mean, my middle child, oh my, smart as the day is long, but quiet. You got to watch the quiet one. And he is so incredibly curious when he was a child. And the damage that he caused to some of the houses that I cleaned,
Oh,
I don't know how
wow.
I didn't get fired. Oh, I did get fired from one. But yeah, he did some crazy stuff. And now his son is just like him. And I'm just sitting back and smiling, and just enjoying the show. Um,
So
but yeah,
so you started your adulthood incredibly young. I mean,
yeah.
17 is young to adult. How much of what you were doing back then was just survival? Like no
Yeah.
plan, just surviving.
And that's exactly what it was. My husband did not. He was only a year older than I was. He wasn't any further ahead educationally. He was working in factories. Um, yeah, and I was cleaning houses, and I wrote resumes for a while. Just anything to bring in money. I
Yeah.
shopped at a lot of garage sales to get the kids clothing or toys or whatever. I had a very supportive family, and they would financially help me out with anything I asked them for if it had to do with the children. If it had to do
Mm,
with making a go of it, paying my bills, I was they wanted me to figure it out. I can remember the first house that we lived in was a little tiny house that sat on a corner of a busy road, and a truck came through the house in the middle of the night, a drunk cop driving a pickup truck.
holy
And the
cow.
pickup truck stopped about a foot outside of our bedroom window where the head of the bed was. Um, and so we had to move. And I had asked my mom and dad, can we live with you until we figure it out? And I was told no. And
Oh,
I didn't understand it at the time, but I'm really, really glad that they said no. I'm really glad that they stepped back and let me figure things out, you know. Because if I constantly was receiving help and receiving aid and getting bailed out, what was I going to learn?
yeah.
So, they weren't punishing me. They were trying to help me. It didn't feel like help at the time, but I
Right.
get it. I get it,
Yeah.
and I'm grateful.
Yeah, and if someone keeps bailing you out, then the message that you tell yourself is that you can't do it yourself. So
Or
then
that if
you're,
I screw up, well, somebody will bail me out.
yeah.
That too.
Um, if you look back at that time, like cleaning houses, from here, that sounds pretty smart. What decisions make sense now because of the situation you were in? Like the 30 days on the bills, does that make sense now, or do you think you could have done something different or better?
I think it was the only choice that I had at the time. I just didn't have an. I mean, I didn't live a lavish life. Um, I regret that I was a smoker, so I did smoke, but I never drank. I didn't go out. I didn't have fancy cars. I didn't spend money foolishly that I can remember, other than I just didn't have enough. We didn't go out to eat. Whenever I would drive from Ohio to Maine every summer. My parents bought an inn in Maine, and so I'd take the kids up for a week every summer in Maine, and I'd make that long drive. It's a 15-hour drive with just me and the kids,
Oof.
and I'd pack a cooler. Um, I don't I don't think they didn't really even know what fast food was. I think we went to movies maybe once a year. Once in a while, we'd go on Christmas Day. But we just didn't do stuff. So I can't see where I wasted money. I just don't think there was enough of it. And I think that it's very hard to get going when you start that young and you start with nothing and you start with minimum paid jobs. My ex-husband's first job paid him $4.25 an hour. Now, again, I know this is not back in the 1980s, but man,
Yeah.
just,
Yeah, I tell my kids that my first job was 375 and then it went to
yeah, mine was
425.
too, something like that. Yeah, I
Yeah.
worked in fast food before that. When I was 16, I worked in fast food. So, yeah, I was making that then too. That's
Um,
nuts.
yeah. So what starts to happen? You said earlier, you'll never get ahead unless you have a windfall. Did you have a windfall?
No.
That's what I
You know,
thought.
my grandfather, my grandfather was a whiz at the stock market, and he had money that he had to get rid of at one point. And I can remember one year at Christmas time, out of the blue, and this is probably in the early 90s. He sent me a check for $5,000, and my three kids each got $100. And that was a shit ton of money
That's
back
a
then.
shit ton of money now.
And I got that money. And I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do with this? You know, um, and I earmarked about 1,500 of it so that he lived in Florida at the time, and I'm like, we have to at least go visit him. So I earmarked 1,500 to go visit him. Um, I cannot tell you where the rest of it went.
Really?
I probably got I probably got temporarily caught up, but I'm sure it didn't last.
Yeah.
Now there was so we lived in this town until, gosh, I don't know. At some point we had lived there 10 years in this house, and he changed jobs, relocated 4 hours across the state. My oldest son was in the middle of his junior year, hated to do it to him because he had grown up with all these kids through school, you know.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, we moved to a completely new area. I've moved so many times in my life, it's disgusting. I can't even count it. Um, my ex-husband kind of was somebody that cared what people thought, and he felt like I don't know, he wanted to build a house. He wanted a new house. And I've always been the type of person where I want to buy an old house and I want to fix it up and make it mine. And he liked the status and the image of having a fancy new house. So we built a new house. And we were there, I guess, 5 years when I told him I wanted a divorce. And by that time I was 40. And I was still raising the last of my children. So we were fortunate in that situation that when the house sold after the original note was paid off, there was enough money that all of our debt was able to be paid off. And
Uh,
he left with his credit card, I left with my credit card, and we were both fortunate enough to start over debt free.
yeah.
With really, with 800 plus credit score ratings, because a long, long time ago, I learned how it worked and the importance of keeping credit.
Right.
And so, as far as divorce situations go, we were very fortunate because I know a lot of people that divorce ends up disastrous when it comes
Yeah.
to monies owed and debt and everything else and whatnot. The problem is that I was coming into this single parenthood situation without any real job training, without a college education, and all I had was a side job working at the playground, blowing a whistle 4 hours a day, and and a side hustle of buying and selling for fun.
And that's where you
And
got into the auctions, right? The online auctions.
yeah, I'm like,
Um,
what in the hell am I going to do with this? I have nothing, but I have a teenage daughter, and I'm not about to let her start raising herself. So
right.
Yeah,
So,
buckle up.
so tell me something that you bought. I'm interested in this. Something that you bought where you thought, "Oh my God, I'm a genius. I mean, I'm going to make so much money." And then discover that you basically would have been better off buying someone's trash. Like something that you bought that was a horrible decision.
Oh gosh, that I got burned. Okay, so and this happened a number of years after I got started. I know enough about a lot of things to make me dangerous in the collectible arena. You
Okay.
know, I try really hard not to play with. In my books, they're called the big bucks, and they're the people that show up and they sit in the lawn chairs under the main tent of the main attraction with the main table of collectibles, and the auctioneer has their full attention. You know, I am the person that waits until the big bucks have bought all the fancy things, the tent has been put away, the auctioneers, well, in my book, they're called the henchmen. A henchman is released into the backyard to start selling the boxes of garbage that they pulled out of the cabinets that they couldn't find any value in. That's my lane. That's where I live.
Okay.
But because I know enough things about things that are worth money, I have a really hard time keeping my hand out of the air sometimes. I got burned on denim one time.
Oh,
Uh, Vintage denim can be worth a lot of money.
yeah. Yeah.
And there was an auctioneer, or I'm sorry, and there was an estate auction that he was a train conductor, he was an engineer, and he had some very old denim overalls, some of the pinstriped ones, like you can imagine
Yeah.
for the old train conductors,
The old
and he
Liberty
had,
pinstripe overalls.
and they had some. Do you know what a chore coat is? The old denim chore coats. They make them now again too. They have brought the look
Oh,
back.
yeah, 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 yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yep.
Yep. And so this was from the 1940s, and there
Okay.
were two brand new dark indigo crisp chore coats, brand spanking new. And I'm dying. I'm drooling. I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. These have got to be worth so much money.
Right.
Yeah. I spent $1,200 on two chore coats. Now, this wasn't in the beginning because in the beginning I could only spend nickels and dimes. This
Okay.
was probably, I hadn't moved here yet, so it was within the first 4 years when I had enough money to throw at it. But even then I was naughty. Even then, sometimes if it was something really good, I would wager my rent money
Yeah.
and
So
buy
you've
it and be
bought
like,
these
oh, I got time
coats.
to. I did for $1,200. Oh, they were listed for so dang long. And I was trying to sell them for 1,200 a piece, and
Yeah.
nobody was biting. I'm like, come on, where are you going to find it?
Right.
And buying and selling is a lot like real estate. If you price it too high, you scare people away. And
Yeah.
then when you lower it, those people are like, oh, well, what's wrong
It'll
with
go
it?
lower.
Why did they lower it? Right. And so there's a really critical line about pricing things. But yeah, I basically ended up selling them for what I paid for them. But when eBay takes 20% of it, I was in the hole. Plus, I
Yeah.
had tied up that money. I did. I mean, I got so many other things at that auction though that I killed it on. They were things that I paid next to nothing for that I made serious bank on, so I could forgive myself a little bit on the chore coats. But it still bothered me that I didn't have to have that $1,200 flapping in the wind. I could have made bank and spent a whole lot less.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you've made a success out of this for sure. Well, not sounds like you have clearly. Was there
Right.
ever a moment where the doubt crept into your mind, like maybe even the chore coats, where you thought, you know what, maybe I'm really not capable of doing this. Maybe I should find something else. Did you ever think of that?
Honestly, not really. I just kept thinking to myself, that I had to keep forging ahead. My daughter had 4 years until she graduated, and I was determined to get to the finish line. And I did keep both jobs. I still worked the playground the first 4 years. And then I would go to auctions in the afternoon or on the weekends because she would spend time with her friends. Every other weekend she was with her dad. She was extremely active in sports, cheerleading, track, basketball. So I always wanted to go to her games too. So I would be at that. I usually stayed up to about 1:30 in the morning doing my listings, doing my work. I would try to grab 45 minutes on the elliptical before I went to bed. But I could not tell you what was on TV for 4 years. Did not watch TV.
You didn't
Did
have
not
time.
go to movies. No, there was no time.
Yeah.
None. Every second had to matter.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, sure there were losses, but the way that I always looked at it, I didn't go to auctions just buying one or two things. I would go to auctions and bring home an entire truckload. And if I spent $400 at the auctions and a couple of things didn't work out, or as long as I made money off of that $400, no matter where it came from, I didn't really focus on my losses too much.
Yeah.
And I turned over inventory kind of quickly. I didn't, if it wasn't selling, I'd get rid of it. But I also did a thing where I would let it accumulate in my garage, and there's these consignment houses, and I could take a truckload over to the consignment house. They would sell it off to other people like me.
Right.
Yeah, they'd sell my duds, and I'd get a cut of it, and then they'd get rid of the rest, and I didn't have to think about it anymore.
Yeah. What was would that be a typical spend at an auction? $400, $600?
Back then, yes.
Yeah.
Back then, it was probably between $200 to $500 an auction, and I was probably going to 3 to 4 auctions a week. So I had to quickly turn that money over to be able to go to the next one, the next one, the next one, the next
Yeah.
one, and on top of that, generate enough money to be able to pay the bills.
And you're primarily like the idea was to whatever you spent, you wanted to double it in sales.
At least
Okay.
minimally double it. Yeah. That was then.
And that was mostly eBay. Were you doing eBay?
That was mostly, I was all eBay for the first 8 years.
Okay. You say all eBay. What else did you try? What did you do? Did you get into Facebook Marketplace?
Oh, I do Marketplace too. I mean, that's always thrown in there. I didn't do it then. I don't think Marketplace was even a thing
Right.
then.
Yeah.
I think that was, but at some point, one of the things that I experimented with was vintage fabric. There was an estate of a quilter who had died, and one of the things in the backyard that the big bucks and the auctioneer didn't care a whole lot about were boxes and boxes and boxes of fabric. So I was able to get a huge truckload with very little money, and all of a sudden I had to learn about fabric because I didn't know that much about fabric. But fabric, just like a lot of things, becomes outdated. It's out of print. It's obsolete. You can't get it. And there are people out there that have.
As you know, I've been coaching for a little over a year now, and my coach just laid something pretty heavy on me. They've challenged me to have 50 powerful coaching conversations booked within the next 30 days. So if you're feeling stuck or overwhelmed, maybe successful but unfulfilled, or you just need to talk something through with someone that you know will listen, then I would love to have that conversation with you. This is not a tactic. There's no sales pitch. It's just one powerful conversation. This is complimentary to you. So if you want in, send me a message and I'll send you the link. I got you.
Memories associated to it. It's bizarre. People
Yeah.
that remember pieces of fabric from when they were kids or when they raised their own kids, and they'd
Right?
be excited to find it again. And I was just like, really? But yeah, I ended up finding out there was some fabric that really had a tremendous amount of value to it. And it just became a whole new adventure. But I started to get a lot of activity in my shop for the fabric. People from Japan, Australia, all over were coming to buy my fabric. And it was not looking very professional. My fabric is in there with other things that don't make sense. So that's when I decided to open another store on Etsy. And Etsy is strictly vintage fabric, antique textiles, salvage textiles, things like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you started to amass. That's when you started getting all the followers, right? You became internet famous.
Kinda.
Yeah.
It's really what started things rolling. It's also right around the time that I went full time and quit. I met my second husband probably a year after I got divorced. Initially, I didn't want anything to do with men ever again.
Right.
It's just
Yeah.
like, go away, leave me alone.
You're all the
But I had,
same.
oh my gosh. But I had devoted my life for all those years to my kids. My kids were my life. That's what everything revolved around my kids. And when my daughter started having her own life and going to her dad's for the weekend, I'm like, man, I got lonely. I was just like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd kind of like somebody to spend time with because she's outgrowing me. I don't know what to do with this. Um, I was in a small town. No way on God's green earth was I going to date anybody in a small town.
Right.
And so, yeah, I got onto Match.com. And in 6 days, I met a guy that 4 years later I would marry. I didn't think that I would.
Look at that.
I mean, oh man, he jokes around about how he had to drag me to the altar, and it's not a whole lot of a lie.
So
But
when
he's great. He's great.
that's awesome. So when you started the vintage fabric and that was successful, did that give you a level of confidence where you started getting other business ideas and got a little more bold, or did you just stay in those two lanes?
Everything really happened randomly and organically.
Okay.
I'm still not even quite sure how I got here. I ended up with a brand before brand was a brand. I had no idea. So I've always been a writer since I was a kid. It's all I ever thought that I was ever going to do with my life, period. It's one of the biggest reasons why I didn't care if I went to college after high school. I was a writer. I was a good writer. I was an amazing storyteller. I don't need to go to college to write a book. Well, I spent a decade writing novels in my 20s before the kids would get up during the day. 20s and 30s. I'd be up at the crack of dawn writing these 4 greatest next novels.
Yeah.
I got an agent. The agent got me some really great reads. I remember Warner Books read my first book, and that editor had that book for a year. That was torture. But anyway, never published a book. When I got divorced, writing was a luxury I couldn't have anymore. Didn't have time for it, so I put it away. But I think there's something about being a writer that it doesn't go away. It still manages to come out. And where it started to come out was in the listing pages for the fabric. And I don't know why, but I became fascinated by the auctioneers, by the competition, by the people that used to own the fabric that I was buying. And so I started to write these essays as part of the listing for this piece of fabric. And my customers, they stepped up. They reacted. They reached out. They're like, man, you got to write a book. I'm like, what?
Oh, wow.
That was a long time ago. I did that once, tried that once. And after hearing it for so many years and watching my sales grow and getting all these great messages from people about how much they were enjoying the stories, I was like, all right, let's do it. And so I did. I started to get up at the crack of dawn again and started to write because, again, I had to find the time. I wasn't debt-free yet. Wrote the first book. Took me a year. Tightwad till the end. Didn't want to pay somebody to publish it. I was 55 years old. I didn't want to wait another 15 years of rejections to try to find a publisher. I'm like, my people have spoken. I have my audience. What more do I need?
Mm-hmm.
And so I figured out how to self-publish it. I'm not technology inclined at all. The internet's wonderful. It walked me through it step by step by step. I hired somebody to format my cover for $75, and
Oh,
the
wow.
rest of it I formatted myself. I figured it out, and yeah. So I
Did
published
you
my book.
make money off the book?
I do make money off the book, but not like in the way that you would think. I learned an awful lot about self-publishing, and one of the things that I immediately learned about self-publishing is that when you publish on Amazon, people that sell their books on Amazon generally do not sell a large amount of books. Some do, but generally there are so many books to pick from that you don't really get seen.
Yeah.
But what happens is that when you generate a few sales, your numbers are like fireworks. They go off. The algorithm kicks in. And it doesn't take a whole lot of sales registering on Amazon for it to suddenly become impressive in Amazon's system. So everybody in my family, friends and family, they're all jumping on buying the book, right? I've been telling them about it for a year. I'm like, buy my book, buy my book. So everybody's jumping on and buying my book. And the very next day I look and it says, oh my God, it's number one. My book is number one. I can't believe it. You know, I always thought that that it was possible. I always knew that I could write. I can't believe it's number one. And I'm like screenshotting it and sending it to everybody.
Right.
Well, after those numbers got tired and people quit buying, I sunk right back down. And then it's like, oh. And so then I realized pretty early on, Amazon's not going to sell my book. I have to sell my book, especially because I'm in this really niche category, you know. So I'm like, okay, well, the book's not just about fabric. It's about my life. It's about my adventures. It's about buying and selling. It is somewhat about fabric because it talks about me going up against competition to get this fabric and some of the crazy stories that I've been through. Who might be interested in stories about fabric? I'm like, okay, well, there's people that sew. They'd be interested. There are people that make quilts. They belong to things called quilt guilds, and quilt guilds have speakers several times a year. So I started to email quilting guilds all over the area, introducing myself, say I've got a book, I've got a fabric shop, I'd love to come be a guest speaker. And in the beginning, I didn't charge for my appearance, so I'd get my name out there, and I started getting hired. And that's where I sell the vast majority of books, is taking my books to the people who are interested in it most.
Oh, wow.
And I do sell, I sell quite a few.
That's awesome.
But yeah, and now I get paid to sell my books.
Yeah, and you get paid to speak.
That's years ago. Yeah, I'm no longer free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Oh, you're no longer free to speak. Okay, yeah, got it.
Yep. No, now I get a speaking fee. I get my mileage. I sell books. They don't buy a whole lot of fabric, but what I did find out, they have way more fabric than they know what to do with, and most of them are older, and they're looking to downsize.
Yeah.
So who do you think they're calling now?
Right.
To buy their fabric stashes. And now I have no competition. I don't have to hunt it down at auctions all the time.
Yeah, you're like the fabric tycoon now.
I'm working on it. My garage is pretty full.
So shifting gears here, you became debt free at 55 after what? Let's see, you were 40, divorced at 40. So probably a financial struggle for the first 35 years of your life. Does that sound about accurate?
Yeah, from 18 to 55. So.
And then at 55, you became debt free. Do you remember the final payment you made to whomever it was? Do you remember that?
So here's the interesting thing. And I mentioned this when we first started talking, that there's a priority mindset when you're thinking about what you want money to do for you.
Mm-hmm.
When we got married, we bought a house in needing of a whole lot of love. But it was cheap. It sat on 5 acres in the country, which I needed because I had horses that I had shared with my daughter. So the property was perfect. The house, not so much. But we were able to grab, I think our interest rate was 2.375, and we did it for 15 years. And we're like, we can do this, because we both had debt when we got married. You know, he had come from a divorce, and he had some of that nasty divorce debt. And I had found myself right back in it because I was trying to make a go of it. You know, I was trying to get my feet underneath me. So I remember a few 401k loans that he took to try to get us caught up along the way. I mean, there were some things that we tried to do and it's no different than trying to consolidate. If you don't have the money to make your monthly bills, then you're just going to fall right back into debt.
Yeah.
So once we got ourselves out of that really bad debt, we kind of stayed out of debt, which was nice. The last thing we owed money on was the house. We got our cars paid off. Didn't have any credit card debt. The last thing we had was the house, and we had 3 years left to go. And we had a tornado come through the area. and it demolished the little resort town 5 miles away. Just ripped a path right through it. It's horrible. We got the hail, and the hail damaged our roof, damaged our siding. It blew out windows in our cars. It damaged a lot. Our cars look. My husband drives this little white hybrid to work, and it's covered with these little dings on it. He says that he feels like he's driving a golf ball because it's got these little divots on it. But they're paid off, you know? And so when the insurance company wanted to scrap them because it was too expensive to fix the dings, we're just like, no, just give us the payout. You know, we'll keep driving them until they're done. Because we don't, it's a car, it's a tool. It's another tool. I don't care about what car I drive. But yeah, the house, they ended up giving us money, the insurance company, towards our outbuildings that it was only a percentage. I mean, they're old barns. We just never had any intent to use it for the barn. So we were able to take that last 20 grand and pay off the house early. And so, yeah, I do remember walking in to the bank that day and handing over the insurance checks. And they had said to us, okay, you still have a balance of, 22,000 some change. They're like, so we are going to have to manage the work that gets done on your home. You're going to have to report back to us on all the repairs. You're going to have to get your contractor approved. There's this big, long list of all the ways that the bank was going to be involved with the insurance money because we still owe them $22,000. And they said, or you can take that 30 grand that they gave you towards the barns and just pay off the rest of the house. And you're like, okay, where do we sign?
Yeah.
Where do we sign? It is the most incredible feeling in the world. Is our house done? No. We've got the upstairs renovated. We've been working on the downstairs. But for the first time in our lives, we have savings accounts. It's incredible. I never had a savings account. Yeah. I don't want to go back.
Oh, right. Yeah. So has your definition of wealth changed as you've gotten older?
100%. I can't really say that I would have ever been that person that I don't think I could ever spend a large amount of money on a possession. I like things. I mean, ask my husband about my shoe closet. That kind of got ugly after we got together. But he inherited his dad's truck when his dad died, and I'm so glad that he did because he's very sentimental about it. But it's like a 1999 Silverado, I think. I think it has 70,000 miles. His dad was meticulous about it, so I'm really glad that he has it because for a lot of reasons. But he kept talking about wanting a new truck, and I'm like, have you seen the price of new trucks? Like, I don't want a new truck.
Yeah.
I don't desire to have these expensive things that I am going to owe on it for the next 30 years, I love that we can have the grandkids over for a week every summer and not worry about work. My dad just got done with a 2-year cancer battle that he unfortunately lost, and I was flying from Ohio to Maine every 6 weeks and closing down shop. I closed up for 6 weeks at one point, and I could do that.
Yeah.
And so that's wealth. Wealth is in the people because you don't get to take any of the other garbage with you. It's in the people.
Yeah. When did enough become enough for you? Do you remember that? Do you remember a pivotal change? Like, okay, this is enough. I've got enough, and now I can shut down the shop and I can go see my dad. Like, I've got enough.
I don't really think that I kind of looked at it as enough. I mean, I'm the type of person that I'm always going to stress out about business if I'm not staying on top of it. And quite honestly, I'm also a very busy person. So when I was in Maine, I probably did more online shopping than I should have been doing because I didn't know what to do with my hands. I didn't know what to do with myself.
Yeah.
I mean, they'd put me to work on what I could help them with because my husband and I are both super handy. So I was fixing drywall or doing whatever it was that I could help them with. But there were still these down times when I'm like, what do I do with my hands? I don't, I can't even just watch TV without working on something.
Yeah.
So I don't know how. My husband actually, and this is phenomenal too. We're both 58 right now. He is very likely going to retire December 1st. We go see the financial advisor for confirmation tomorrow. But it is looking like, it's looking like as long as we keep living the life that we're living, that he can retire. And it's, yes, he planned for it well where he works. He works for a great company. He has a pension, 401k, things like that. But it really took us getting debt free to be able to look at everything that we had together and be like, you know what? We could do this. If we keep the priorities where they are right now, we can do this.
So did becoming debt free, did it make you happier, or do you think it created enough space for you to notice the happiness that was already there?
I think it gave me a greater appreciation for the things that I was already appreciating. The whole time I was raising my kids and trying to figure out how I was going to do it, I had this core thing that I didn't want to deviate from, and that was raising my kids.
Yeah.
And so everything else, I was just constantly pivoting. And so becoming debt-free, like reaching the end and looking back, I'm really glad that I prioritized what I did. And now we have this phenomenal relationship with our grandchildren, and we get to kind of do it all over again with the grandkids. We're the fun grandparents. We have go-karts and kayaks and pontoons with water slides and
nice.
We have fishing. Oh yeah, we've got we would buy them things to do here before we would buy things for ourselves.
Yeah.
This last year we bought a trampoline. It's a water trampoline for the pond. I haven't figured out how we're going to store it yet this winter, but I don't know. It's just fun. It's fun to be able to do things that I couldn't do with my kids, and to give my grandkids, I don't know, childhood, something to remember.
That's awesome. So what does a typical day look like for you then? Like what's average Tuesday?
Average Tuesday, we get up at 4:30 in the morning. And
early.
Again, I can't. It is early, but I'm used to it. I can't break old ways. So he does not buy breakfast and lunch at work. I get up.
Typical Tuesday. Hold on. Typical Tuesday. Let's stay on that. What does it look like?
Okay. Up at 4:30. Come downstairs. Brush my teeth. Whatever. Hit the kitchen, and I make a hot breakfast and a hot lunch in 30 minutes. Put it in his lunchbox. Out the door he goes. Oh, I've gotten good. I
Yeah, that's good.
If I had more time in my day, I would 100% do Instagram videos on this. Because I will make multiple portions of what I make and then freeze the extra portions so that it makes another morning quicker, because I just have to get it out. And anyway, so breakfast, lunch, cooked, packed, 30 minutes. He's out the door at 5. Then I sit down. I have a cup of tea, and it's the only caffeine that I get during the day because I don't drink coffee.
Okay.
So I have a little bit of caffeine in my tea. And I have my breakfast. I warm up on the computer. I'm usually checking Podmatch. I'll usually throw a podcast on to listen to while I'm eating. And then as soon as I am done eating, then I start preparing my orders. And I usually have, usually a dozen fabric orders in the morning. And then my eBay office is now out in the garage. I have 2 offices. That's how special and important I am.
Right. That's how big you've gotten. That's your empire.
So you're sitting in my fabric office right now. So so then I will go out to my eBay office, and I will get together whatever shipments I have to ship for eBay. I try to get everything out to my mailbox for pickup at 9, even though she doesn't come till 11:30. After that, I will go out and I will feed the chickens, let the ducks out, so they go out in the pond. Then I will go out back and I will feed the very last of my horses. I have one left. And then I come inside and it's time to get to work. And so usually I will work on listings for the rest of the day, but there's always something that derails me, so it's never as good as I think it's going to be. Every Friday night, I'm like, next Monday, I'm going to start to really dedicate X amount of hours every day because I have so much inventory. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I also have a lot of listings right now, so things are always selling even when I'm not babysitting it.
Right. Um, so Kira, you've been broke, you've failed, you've rebuilt, you've built businesses, you've written books, and you're sitting here at 55 debt free with a very different perspective on what success looks like for sure. What would you say to someone that's listening right now who's still in that messy part of that story, still in the I've got 30 days to pay this and the balance is going to keep going up? What would you say to them?
Oh my gosh. No matter how hard, and for whatever reason, I find that when I am the brokest, I want to spend money the most. I don't know
Oh,
why, but that's the thing. Whenever I don't know if it's retail therapy,
yeah,
I don't know if it's an attitude of just screw it, I can't pay the bills anyway. I don't know why that is, but that is something I have found true of myself. When I have money to spare, it's much more addictive for me to save it or to reinvest it than it is to buy something with it. So I guess my biggest piece of advice is that when you're feeling broke and you're feeling like the situation is hopeless anyway, to try to resist the urge to make the problem worse. Don't wade in the water any deeper. I
mm,
mean, just tread it for a little while if you can. There are so many ways to reduce spending. Like I said, we didn't do fast food. We don't, even now, we don't really eat out, although we have an ongoing lunch date in the parking lot where he works every Friday when I go do errands.
oh,
I'll bring
nice.
fast food or whatever, and we'll sit in the car for lunch and we'll have, so that's been a thing ever since we moved here. But as far as like going out to eat, maybe once in a while we'll catch a movie. But limit the extras. The extras add up so fast. It's ridiculous. Even silly things like eating at work adds up. Figure out ways to save money. Figure out places that you can cut back, and then decide to treat yourself once a month. Decide what you would like to do once a month so you have something to look forward to, because nobody can have nothing to look forward to. You got to have something.
Right. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you for that. And how if people wanted to follow you, people wanted to see your fabric, how would they get in touch with you?
You can find me on my Etsy page all the time. I work really hard to be a 5-star seller, and so one of the conditions of that is replying to messages within 24 hours, which I do. I'm very good at. So yeah, if you love fabric, come on over to Oddity on Etsy. We'll talk fabric. I'm also on Instagram. I like to do promotional videos on Instagram, which those do help drive businesses. I have not seen any increase or success in promoting videos through any social media. I think that's all a big hype. There's lots of better ways to get exposure that doesn't cost any money, and that can be a whole other episode.
Yeah,
But yeah, I'm on LinkedIn too, but that's under Kira Hartley Klinger, and I do have a Facebook author page. It's under Kira Hartley Klinger.
cool. Kira, thank you for doing this. And what I love about conversations like this, they remind us that success doesn't have to look like somebody else's version of success. Maybe your win's building the company. Maybe it's getting out of debt. Maybe it's leaving something isn't good for you. Maybe it's quitting something. Maybe it's rebuilding after you've screwed something up. The important part is recognizing it. So if something in this conversation landed with you, follow All Can, No Can't, wherever you listen to podcasts, and check us out on the next episode. And more importantly, if you think about somebody who could hear this, who could use this lesson, send them this episode. Maybe they're in the middle of trying to get out of financial duress, or maybe they are trying to get their debt paid off. And maybe they've been comparing their life to everybody else's highlight reel, which is something that we've talked about. So send them
Yeah.
this episode, and until next time, I absolutely cannot wait to see you. This has been All Can, No Can't. I'm your host, Jeff Luther, and I will see you next time.
Thanks for listening to All Can, No Can't. If today's episode resonated with you, remember it's not about the chaos you face. It's about how you choose to take back control. It's about finding that one small can in the can't you're given and grinding it down. Find your angle, carve your place out in the world, and get the fucking win. Do that by finding what you can do and not listening to what you can't. You choose. Be sure to subscribe, share, and leave a review. Your support helps me reach more people that are ready to embrace the all-can mindset. And it lets them know there's someone that's willing to walk with them no matter how dark the path gets. You can find me on Insta at JDLuther 2.0 and allcan_no-can't. This is where I share more tips, stories, inspiration to help fuel your journey. And until next time, keep pushing boundaries, breaking limits, proving to yourself that anything is possible, even when you're told it isn't. Remember, life's not about can't. It's all can. Go prove them wrong.